Zainab stood motionless at the edge of the glass-walled mansion, her fingertips pressed against the cool surface as she stared at the sprawling city lights below. Harbor City glittered like scattered diamonds against the night, beautiful and unreachable. She could see everything from up here. The downtown skyline, the harbor's distant cranes, even the tiny speck of a neighborhood where she once had an apartment. "They said I was free to leave," she whispered to her reflection. That was the most dangerous lie. Behind her, footsteps approached, measured, deliberate. She didn't need to turn around to know who it was. 8 weeks in this place had taught her to recognize the sound of his walk, the particular weight and rhythm that belonged only to him. "Have you decided?" Kang Ji-hoon's voice was quiet, controlled. The same voice that had ordered men killed and empires built. Zainab closed her eyes. "What happens if I say no?" The silence stretched between them, electric and dangerous. "Then you walk away," he finally answered, "and we never see each other again." She turned to face him then, this man who had changed everything. "And what happens if I stay?" His dark eyes met hers, and for once the mask slipped. "Everything changes." Hello besties, you're welcome. If this is your first time here, kindly hit the subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. You don't want to miss what happens next in our dramatic stories of love, power, and survival. Now, let's go back to where it all started. 3 months earlier, the last call lounge smelled like expensive cologne and desperation. Zainab wiped down the marble bar counter for what felt like the 100th time that night, her movements mechanical after 8 hours on her feet. The club's dim blue lighting cast shadows across her face, hiding the exhaustion in her eyes. "Last call was 20 minutes ago, sir," she said to the only remaining customer, a man in a rumpled business suit nursing what remained of his scotch. He mumbled something, drained his glass, and shuffled toward the exit, leaving behind a measly $5 tip. Zainab pocketed it without comment. $5 was $5, and she needed every cent. The manager, Derek, emerged from the back office, already pulling on his coat. "You good to lock up, Z?" "Same as every night," she replied, forcing a smile. "Don't forget to run the dishwasher before you leave." He tossed the keys her way. "And make sure the alarm's set properly this time." After he left, Zainab let her shoulders slump. She pulled out her phone. No new messages, no missed calls. Just the same notification from her banking app warning about insufficient funds. The eviction notice waiting in her apartment flashed through her mind. Its red block letters burned into her memory. Final warning. She turned her attention to closing duties, counting the register, wiping down tables, stacking clean glasses. The mindless routine allowed her thoughts to wander to places she usually avoided. To Malik, to promises made and broken, to 8 months of silence. The sound of the front door opening jerked her from her thoughts. She looked up, irritated. "We're closed," she called out, not bothering to hide her annoyance. The man who entered didn't respond. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a perfectly tailored black suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. His face was all angles, sharp cheekbones, strong jaw, eyes so dark they seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Asian, Korean maybe, with an aura of absolute authority. Behind him, 2 men in similar suits took positions by the door. Fear slid cold fingers down Zainab's spine, but she straightened, chin lifting. "I said we're closed." The man walked to the bar, his movements fluid and controlled. He sat on one of the high stools directly across from her, placing his hands palm down on the polished surface. "One last drink?" His voice was deep, accented but clear. Zainab's hand drifted toward her phone in her apron pocket. "The bar is closed. I can't serve you." "Zainab Afolayan." He said her name like he was testing the weight of it. 26 years old, Nigerian immigrant, green card holder, currently residing at 1542 Harborview Apartments, though not for much longer, I suspect. Her blood turned to ice. "Who are you?" "My name is Kang Ji-hoon." He didn't offer his hand. "And I believe we have a mutual acquaintance, Malik Rowe." The name hit her like a physical blow. She hadn't heard it spoken aloud in months. "I don't know where he is," she said automatically. "He disappeared 8 months ago." "Yes," Ji-hoon agreed. "With $4 million that belonged to me." The world tilted beneath Zainab's feet. $4 million. Malik had told her it was gambling debts, bad investments. "I don't know anything about that," she managed, her voice surprisingly steady. "We broke up before he left." Ji-hoon's expression didn't change, and yet your signature appears alongside his on several financial documents, storage units, safety deposit boxes, a lease agreement for a warehouse in the industrial district. "That's impossible. I never signed." But even as she said it, memories surfaced. Malik, charming smile in place, sliding papers across the kitchen table. Just a formality, baby. For the business. You know I handle all that boring stuff. I see you're beginning to understand your situation, Ji-hoon observed. The debt collectors who have been calling you are the least of your problems, Ms. Afro-Korean. A chill ran through her. Are you going to kill me? The question hung in the air between them. One of the men by the door shifted his weight. Ji-hoon's expression remained unchanged. If I wanted you dead, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Then what do you want? To offer you a choice. He reached inside his jacket. Zainab tensed and withdrew a sleek black envelope, placing it on the counter between them. My car is waiting outside. You can come with me now, voluntarily, and we can discuss terms. Or you can walk away, finish your shift, go home, and see who comes for you next. Who else would come for me? Malik stole from several organizations before he disappeared. Some are less civilized in their collection methods than I am. His gaze was steady. You have 30 seconds to decide. Zainab's mind raced. Run? Fight? Scream? None seemed viable with the two men blocking the door, and something told her Ji-hoon wasn't bluffing about others coming for her. If I go with you, what happens? You'll be safe, protected, at least until we locate Malik and recover what he took. And then? His eyes met hers. Then you're free to leave. 29 seconds had passed. Zainab made her choice. Let me get my coat. The black SUV moved through Harbor City's streets like a shark through dark water, sleek, purposeful, dangerous. Zainab sat in the back, hands folded in her lap to hide their trembling. Ji-hoon sat beside her, a careful distance maintained between them, his attention on the passing city lights. Where are we going? She finally asked, breaking the thick silence. Somewhere safe, he replied without looking at her. Your definition of safe and mine might differ, Zainab said, a thread of defiance in her voice. That earned her a glance, the barest hint of surprise in his expression. You're not what I expected. And what did you expect? Tears? Begging? Most people would be terrified. Who says I'm not? She met his gaze steadily. But terror doesn't change anything. My grandmother taught me that. Something shifted in his eyes, not softening exactly, but a flicker of reassessment. The car turned off the main road, beginning a winding ascent up a hill on the outskirts of the city. Eventually, they passed through an imposing gate, guards nodding respectfully as the vehicle entered. The estate that emerged from the darkness took Zainab's breath away despite her circumstances. Modern architecture, all clean lines and glass, perched on the hillside like a geometric eagle's nest. Lights illuminated manicured gardens and a circular driveway where the car finally came to a stop. We're here, Ji-hoon said unnecessarily, exiting and waiting for her to follow. Inside, the house was minimalist, but undeniably luxurious. Open spaces, neutral colors, artwork that even Zainab's untrained eye could tell was museum quality. A middle-aged woman in simple black clothing appeared, bowing slightly to Ji-hoon. He spoke to her briefly in Korean, then turned to Zainab. Mrs. Park will show you to your room. You should rest. We'll talk in the morning. I want to talk now, Zainab insisted. You drag me from my workplace, threaten me with unnamed dangers, bring me to your fortress, and now expect me to just go to bed? Ji-hoon regarded her for a long moment. Very well, follow me. He led her to what appeared to be a study, walls lined with books, a large desk dominating one side of the room. He gestured for her to sit in one of two leather chairs positioned near a window overlooking the city. Tea? He offered, already moving to a small lacquered cabinet. I don't want tea. I want answers, Zainab said, but sat anyway, her body betraying how exhausted she truly was. Ji-hoon prepared tea regardless, the ritual seeming to center him. When he finally sat across from her, two steaming cups between them, his face was composed. 8 months ago, Malik Rowe approached my organization with a business proposition, he began. A legitimate investment opportunity in real estate development. The proposal was sound, the numbers checked out, we invested. Let me guess, there was no real estate, Zainab said flatly. Ji-hoon inclined his head slightly. There was land, but it had already been sold to another developer. By the time we discovered this, Malik had disappeared with our money and funds from at least 2 other organizations. He paused. One being the Bratva's West Coast operation. Zainab felt the blood drain from her face. Even she knew what that meant. Why come after me? I didn't take your money. 2 reasons. Ji-hoon sipped his tea calmly. First, your signatures on those documents make you legally connected to Malik's activities, whether you knew about them or not. Second, he reached for a tablet on the side table, tapped the screen, and handed it to her. The photo showed a little girl, maybe 6 years old, with warm brown skin and curly hair pulled into puffs on either side of her head. She was smiling, front tooth missing, eyes bright with childhood happiness. "Who is this?" Zainab asked, though something in her already knew. Amara Rowe, Malik's daughter." The world seemed to stop. Malik doesn't have a daughter. He does, currently living under protection with her mother's cousin Elena Cruz in a safe house we arranged. Zainab stared at the photo, seeing Malik's eyes in the child's face. "He never told me. He kept many secrets," Ji-hoon said, his tone neutral. "When he realized we were closing in, he abandoned the child with Elena. We found them 3 months ago." "And you're protecting them? Why?" "The child is innocent and useful." The coldness of the statement snapped Zainab back to her situation. "So I'm just another piece of leverage? Another innocent you're using to get to Malik?" Ji-hoon's expression hardened. "Make no mistake, Ms. Afolayan. You are not innocent in this. Your signature is on documents that facilitated the theft of millions. Your name is on accounts that channeled stolen funds. Whether you knew or not is irrelevant to the people hunting Malik. So what happens now? I'm your prisoner until you find him?" "Not prisoner, guest under protection." He set down his cup. "The Bratva doesn't know about you yet. Seo Minjai's organization believes you're already dead. As long as you remain here under my security, you stay alive." "And what's the price for this protection?" Zainab asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ji-hoon's eyes met hers. "Cooperation, information about Malik, his habits, contacts, weaknesses, and your presence here, within my household, visible to my associates." "As what? Your hostage? Your whore?" The words came out sharp with fear and anger. For the first time, something like anger flashed across Ji-hoon's face. "Neither. My protection of you is not conditional on that type of arrangement." His voice was clipped. "You will be introduced as a business associate under my protection. Nothing more." "Why should I believe you?" "Because unlike Malik, I keep my word." He stood, signaling the end of the conversation. "Rest. Tomorrow we'll discuss the terms in detail." Zainab remained seated. "And if I refuse? If I walk out that door right now? Then you're on your own, against people who won't bother with conversation before they act." His expression softened fractionally. "The child loses another connection to safety, and Malik remains free to hurt more people." He moved to the door, paused. "Your room has clothes, toiletries, everything you need. The door locks from the inside. No cameras, and no monitors. You have privacy." Another pause. "I'm not the monster in this story, Ms. Afolayan, but I'm not the hero either." After he left, Zainab sat alone in the silent room, staring at the photo of the little girl with Malik's eyes, feeling the ground continue to crumble beneath her feet. Morning arrived with surreal clarity. Zainab woke in a bed more comfortable than any she'd ever slept in, sunlight filtering through floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a panoramic view of Harbor City below. For a moment, disorientation gripped her, then reality crashed back. She was in Kang Ji-hoon's house, effectively a captive, regardless of what he called it. The closet revealed clothing in her size, simple, elegant pieces that somehow matched her personal style. The attached bathroom was stocked with high-end toiletries, including products specifically for her hair type. The thoroughness of the preparation was both impressive and disturbing. After showering and dressing in jeans and a simple blouse, she tried the bedroom door. True to Ji-hoon's word, it had been locked from her side. It opened easily. A young woman waited in the hallway, bowing slightly when she saw Zainab. "Good morning, Ms. Afolayan. Mr. Kang is waiting for you in the breakfast room. May I show you the way?" Zainab followed her through the sprawling house, mentally mapping the layout. Floor-to-ceiling windows seemed to be a theme, offering views from every angle. Security cameras were visible at key points, not hiding their presence, a clear message about the level of surveillance. The breakfast room turned out to be a sun-drenched space with a small table already set for two. Ji-hoon stood when she entered, gesturing to the chair across from him. "Did you sleep well?" he asked, as though this were a normal social situation. "As well as can be expected when kidnapped," Zainab replied, taking the seat. A hint of a smile touched his lips. "You came voluntarily." "Under duress." "Semantics?" He nodded to a server who began bringing dishes, traditional Korean breakfast foods alongside more familiar Western options. Zainab didn't touch the food. I want to see proof about Amara. Real proof, not just a photo that could be anyone. Ji-hoon studied her for a moment, then reached for a tablet lying beside his plate. A few taps, and he turned it toward her. A video began playing, the same little girl from the photo sitting at a table drawing with crayons. A woman's voice off-camera asked questions in Spanish, which the child answered in a mix of English and Spanish. "When was this taken?" Zainab asked, her voice tight. "Yesterday afternoon." "And Elena, who is she exactly?" "Malik's former partner, not Amara's mother. That woman died shortly after childbirth. Elena raised Amara from infancy." Ji-hoon's voice softened slightly. "She's been good to the child, protected her even when Malik abandoned them." Zainab watched the video again, looking for any sign of distress or coercion. The child seemed happy, healthy, normal. "What do you want from me?" she finally asked, meeting Ji-hoon's gaze. "Really?" "Exactly what I said last night. Your cooperation, your presence here, your insights into Malik's behavior patterns." "In exchange for what?" "Your safety. The child's continued protection. And when this is over, and your freedom, legal and literal." He leaned forward slightly. "The documents you signed implicate you in financial crimes that carry substantial prison sentences. I can make those disappear." "Why would you do that?" "Because you're more valuable to me cooperative than imprisoned." His answer was brutally honest. "And because, despite what you might think, I'm not in the business of punishing innocents for others' crimes." Zainab finally reached for a piece of toast, buying time as she thought. "What exactly would I have to do?" "Live here, follow security protocols, attend certain social functions as my associate, answer questions about Malik honestly." He paused. "Learn to defend yourself." That surprised her. "Defend myself?" "The world I operate in is dangerous, Ms. Afro-Korean. If you're seen with me, you become a potential target. I won't have you vulnerable." "How long would this arrangement last?" "Until we locate Malik. Weeks, possibly months." Zainab set down the toast, untasted. "I need guarantees, written terms." For the first time, Ji-hoon looked genuinely surprised. "You want a contract?" "Yes, with clear boundaries and expectations." She met his gaze steadily. "I won't be signing anything without reading it first. Not anymore." After a moment, he nodded. "Very wise. I'll have it drawn up today. I also want regular proof that Amara is safe and well treated. Acceptable. And I want my own phone, my own clothes from my apartment." She hesitated. "And to know that my grandmother in Nigeria isn't worried about me." Ji-hoon considered this. "A new phone, with necessary security measures. Your belongings can be collected. As for your grandmother," he paused, "you can speak with her weekly, on a secure line, with the understanding that you cannot reveal your situation." It was more than she'd expected him to agree to. "One more condition. You're in no position to make demands, Ms. Afro-Korean. And yet, here I am, making them." She leaned forward. "I want your word, your personal guarantee, that when this is over, Amara will remain protected, even if something happens to Malik." Something shifted in Ji-hoon's expression. Respect, perhaps? "You have it." He extended his hand across the table. "Do we have an agreement?" Zainab looked at his offered hand, knowing this moment would change everything. She took it, his grip firm and warm around her fingers. "We have an agreement, Mr. Kang." "Ji-hoon," he corrected. "If you're to be believed as my associate, you should use my given name." "Then you should use mine," she replied. "Zainab." He inclined his head in acknowledgement. "Zainab." The way he said her name, careful attention to each syllable, sent an unexpected shiver down her spine. If you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button right now and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us create more content like this. Drop a comment below telling us what you think will happen next. Now back to Zainab and Ji-hoon's dangerous arrangement. Days blurred into weeks as Zainab adjusted to life in Ji-hoon's world. The contract, true to his word, arrived that afternoon. Detailed, comprehensive, and surprisingly fair. It outlined her obligations, his protections, and most importantly, confirmed that their arrangement included no expectation of physical intimacy. Her training began the next day. "Again," the instructor said, his voice betraying no frustration despite it being Zainab's fifth failed attempt at the defensive move. She picked herself up from the mat of the home gym, wiping sweat from her forehead. "This is pointless. I'm not a fighter." You don't need to be a fighter, Ji-hoon said from the doorway where he'd been observing. You need to survive long enough for help to arrive. He stepped onto the mat, dismissing the instructor with a nod. May I? Zainab hesitated, then nodded. Ji-hoon moved behind her, his presence solid and warm. The problem is your stance, he said, voice close to her ear. You're fighting your own balance. His hands lightly positioned her shoulders. I then moved to her hips to adjust her stance. The touch was professional, impersonal even, but Zainab felt heat rise to her cheeks nonetheless. Now try, he stepped back. Use your opponent's momentum against them. When the instructor came at her again, something clicked. She moved instinctively, redirecting his force rather than fighting it. He stumbled past her, surprise evident on his face. Good, Ji-hoon said, the simple praise strangely satisfying. Again. The physical training was just one aspect of her new life. There were language lessons, basic Korean phrases that might save her life in an emergency. Security protocols, which areas of the house were restricted, which cars were safe, which of Ji-hoon's men could be trusted absolutely. And then there were the social lessons. The gala this weekend is important, Mrs. Park explained as she adjusted the fit of a midnight blue evening gown on Zainab's frame. Many business associates will be present. You must appear confident, composed. I'm just supposed to pretend I belong in this world? Zainab asked, staring at her reflection. The woman in the mirror looked like a stranger, elegant, polished, far removed from the bartender who wiped down counters at the last call lounge. No, Ji-hoon said, entering the room. You're supposed to make them believe you've always belonged. His eyes met hers in the mirror, and something unspoken passed between them. A recognition that they were both playing parts, wearing masks for different reasons. The night of the gala arrived with a flurry of preparation. Zainab found herself in a gown that probably cost more than her former apartment's annual rent, in hair arranged in an elegant updo that highlighted her cheekbones and the long line of her neck. When she emerged from her room, Ji-hoon was waiting in the foyer. He stilled when he saw her, something flashing in his eyes before he controlled it. You look beautiful, he said simply. Thank you, she replied, surprising herself with the genuine pleasure his words brought. You clean up well yourself. In his perfectly tailored tuxedo, he was striking, power and elegance embodied. For a dangerous moment, Zainab allowed herself to forget why she was here, who he was, who she was supposed to be. Remember, he said as they approached the venue, a historic building in downtown Harbor City, you're a business consultant specializing in West African markets. We met through mutual connections in the import/export business. I know my cover story, she assured him. I've been studying. He nodded, then hesitated. Stay close tonight. Seo Min-jae will be there. Your rival? She'd learned about Seo during her briefings. An ambitious underboss within the same organization, hungry for Ji-hoon's position. Yes, he's dangerous in ways that aren't immediately obvious. Ji-hoon's hand came to rest lightly at the small of her back as they exited the car. If he approaches you when I'm not present, excuse yourself immediately. The gala was a swirl of wealth and power, politicians, business magnates, and beneath the surface, the criminal elite who truly controlled Harbor City. Zainab moved through it with practiced grace, staying close to Ji-hoon while maintaining the illusion of independence. She was at the bar, waiting for drinks, when a voice spoke from beside her. So you're Kang's new acquisition. Zainab turned to find herself face-to-face with a man she recognized immediately from photos, Seo Min-jae, younger than Ji-hoon, with a smile that never reached his eyes. I'm not an acquisition, she replied coolly. I'm a business associate. Seo laughed, the sound devoid of humor. Is that what he's calling it these days? Tell me, does he still keep that katana mounted in his study, or has he finally embraced the modern world? The detail, specific, personal, sent a chill down Zainab's spine. Seo had been in Ji-hoon's home, recently enough to know his decor. I wouldn't know about his decorating preferences, she said, maintaining her composure. Our relationship is professional. Professional, Seo repeated, thus stepping closer. You know, there are whispers about Kang's operation, missing funds, federal interest, associates who suddenly disappear. His smile widened. You might want to reconsider your professional alignments. Before Zainab could respond, Ji-hoon appeared at her side, 2 glasses in hand. His expression was pleasant, but his eyes were cold as they settled on Seo. Min-jae, he said, voice deceptively light, I see you've met Ms. Afro-Korean. Just getting acquainted. Seo replied, inclining his head slightly. She's certainly different from your usual type. Ji-hoon's hand found Zainab's elbow, a gentle pressure guiding her away. If you'll excuse us, Senator Kim was asking after you, Zainab. As they moved through the crowd, Zainab leaned close to murmur, he knows about the katana in your study. Ji-hoon's steps faltered almost imperceptibly. What else did he say? Something about missing funds and federal interest. She glanced up at him. And associates who disappear. A muscle ticked in Ji-hoon's jaw. We'll discuss it at home. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of introductions and small talk, but Zainab couldn't shake the unease Seo's words had planted. When they finally returned to the estate, Ji-hoon led her directly to his study, where, indeed, a traditional katana hung in a display case on one wall. Seo has been in my home, Ji-hoon confirmed, pouring himself a measure of scotch. He offered her a glass, which she declined. Likely within the last month when I was in Seoul. How? With all your security. Someone on my staff is compromised. His voice was flat with controlled anger. But that's not what concerns me most. His mention of federal interest suggests he knows about my arrangement with the FBI. Zainab stared at him. The FBI? You're working with the federal government? Ji-hoon sighed, suddenly looking tired. It's complicated. Uncomplicate it, she demanded. Now. He studied her for a long moment, then nodded. 5 years ago, I began systematically transitioning our operations away from illegal enterprises, property development, import/export, legitimate businesses with legitimate profits. Why? Because empires built on blood eventually drown in it. He set down his glass. The FBI approached me 2 years ago with a proposition. Immunity in exchange for information on certain organizations, including the Bratva operations on the West Coast. Understanding dawned. That's why you want Malik. Not just for the money, but because he has information you need for your deal with the feds. Yes, but Seo and others like him prefer the old ways, more violent, more profitable in the short term. Ji-hoon's eyes met hers. If Seo discovers the full extent of my cooperation with the FBI, everyone connected to me becomes a target, including you, including Amara. The realization hit Zainab like a physical blow. You've been protecting me from more than just Malik's enemies. You've been protecting me from your own people. Yes. The single word held a weight of truth that shifted everything she thought she understood about her situation. Why risk it? Why not just... She couldn't finish the thought. Kill you? Ji-hoon supplied bluntly. Because that's not who I am. Not anymore. He moved to stand before her. Despite what you might think, Zainab, I do have a code, a line I won't cross. Something in his voice, in the intensity of his gaze, made her heart race. They were standing too close, the air between them charged with something dangerous and unnamed. I should go to bed, she said, her voice not quite steady. It's been a long night. Ji-hoon stepped back, breaking the moment. Of course, we'll increase security protocols tomorrow. And you'll need to be more careful now that Seo has taken an interest in you. At her door, Zainab paused. Ji-hoon? He looked at her questioningly. Thank you for telling me the truth. Something softened in his expression. Rest well, Zainab. That night she dreamed of dark eyes and gentle hands and woke feeling more confused than ever. The weeks that followed brought changes. Security tightened around the estate. Zainab's training intensified. Not just self-defense now, but firearms, tactical driving, even poison recognition. Ji-hoon insisted she learn to shoot, his hands steady as he positioned her arms, corrected her stance, taught her to breathe through the recoil. I hate guns, she admitted, after a particularly grueling session at his private shooting range. So do I, he replied simply. But I'd hate your death more. The casual statement, delivered without emphasis, struck Zainab silent. When had she become more than an asset to him? When had he become more than a captor to her? Their dynamic had shifted in subtle ways. Meals shared in comfortable silence, late-night conversations in his study about books, art, philosophy, his surprised laughter when she beat him at chess, the way he listened, truly listened, when she spoke of Nigeria, of her grandmother's wisdom, of the life she'd dreamed of before everything changed. One night, unable to sleep, she wandered to the kitchen for tea and found him already there, staring out at the city lights. Nightmares? She asked softly. He didn't turn. Memories. Sometimes they're the same thing. Zainab moved to stand beside him at the window. Want to talk about it? No. Then, softly, yes. So he told her, about growing up in his father's shadow, about choices made for survival that hardened into habits, about the moment he realized he'd become what he once feared. "There was a man," Ji-hoon said, voice distant with memory. "A rival who threatened my father's territory. I was 19 when I was ordered to make an example of him." He fell silent. "Did you?" Zainab asked gently. "No, I let him escape." His eyes met hers in the darkened glass. "My father nearly killed me for the disobedience, but something in me changed that night. I realized I could choose a different path." "Is that why you made the deal with the FBI? To find that different path?" "Partly." He turned to face her fully. "Do you believe people can change, Zainab?" Truly change? The question hung between them, heavy with unspoken meaning. "I believe we can choose differently," she finally answered. "Each day, each moment. Whether that adds up to true change, I don't know." Ji-hoon nodded slowly. "A wise answer." He hesitated, then reached out to touch her face, just a whisper of contact against her cheek. "You should try to sleep." She caught his hand before he could withdraw it completely. "So should you." Something dangerous and beautiful flickered in his eyes, and for a breathless moment, Zainab thought he might close the distance between them. Instead, he gently reclaimed his hand. "Good night, Zainab." The breakthrough came unexpectedly. Zainab was reviewing financial documents, part of her cover training, when she noticed a pattern. "These shipping manifests," she said, hand-spreading papers across Ji-hoon's desk. "The destinations repeat in a specific sequence, but this one breaks the pattern." Ji-hoon studied the documents, eyes narrowing. "Good catch. This could be—" His phone rang, interrupting him. The conversation was brief in rapid Korean, but Zainab had learned enough to catch mentions of Malik and money. "They found a trail," Ji-hoon explained after hanging up. "Bank accounts in Macau linked to shell companies we've connected to Malik." "Is it enough to find him?" "Not yet, but we're close." His expression was grim. "Too close for comfort, apparently. Elena called this morning. She believes they're being watched." Fear clutched at Zainab's heart. "Amara is safe for now. I've increased security at their location." He hesitated. "But we may need to move them." "Let me help," Zainab said immediately. "Amara doesn't know you, but she might trust me. I could—" "No." Ji-hoon's voice was firm. "It's too dangerous, especially now that Seo is watching you too." "I'm not afraid. You should be." He moved around the desk to stand before her. "Zainab, these past weeks, you've become more than just an asset in this operation." His hand reached for hers, an unusual display of vulnerability. "I can't risk you." The unspoken emotion in his words made her breath catch. "Ji-hoon!" The moment shattered as his security chief burst into the study without knocking, a breach of protocol that immediately put Ji-hoon on alert. "Sir, we have confirmation. Malik Rowe has been located. He's in Singapore." Everything moved quickly after that. Ji-hoon's organization mobilized with military precision. Flights arranged, teams deployed, federal contacts notified. "You'll remain here under maximum security," Ji-hoon informed Zainab as he prepared to leave for the airport. "No one enters or leaves until I return." "How long will you be gone?" she asked, trying to ignore the knot of anxiety in her stomach. 3 days, 4 at most." He hesitated, then added, "When I return, this will be over. You'll be free to go." The words should have brought relief. Instead, Zainab felt a hollowness open up inside her. "What about Amara? Elena?" "Already being moved to a permanent safe location. The agreement we made will be honored. They'll be protected for life." Ji-hoon checked his watch, then met her eyes one last time. "Zainab, thank you. For everything." He was gone before she could respond, leaving her alone in the vast house that had somehow, strangely, begun to feel like home. The first day passed in tense silence, the second in growing unease as communication from Ji-hoon's team became sporadic. By the third day, Zainab was pacing the floors, checking her secure phone obsessively for updates. When it finally rang late that night, she answered before the first ring completed. "Ji-hoon?" "Not quite." The voice that answered sent ice through her veins. "But I'm pleased you and Kang are on such intimate terms." "Seo Min-jae." "What do you want?" Zainab demanded, fighting to keep her voice steady. "Where is Ji-hoon?" "Currently enjoying Singaporean hospitality in a rather confined setting." Seo's voice was smooth, satisfied. "It seems federal agents received an anonymous tip about a Korean national attempting to intimidate a witness. Most unfortunate timing." Understanding dawned with sickening clarity. "You set him up." I merely accelerated the inevitable. Kang's FBI collaboration was always going to be his downfall. A pause. But that's not why I'm calling, Ms. Afolayan. I'm calling about our mutual friend, Malik Rowe. Zainab's heart stuttered. What about him? He's been quite cooperative since we found him, very forthcoming about your involvement in his financial arrangements. I wasn't involved. Your signature suggests otherwise. CO cut her off smoothly. But that's a matter for the courts to decide. If you live long enough to see the inside of a courtroom, that is. Fear and anger warred within her. What do you want from me? Simple. The account passwords Kang never found, the ones Malik claims only you know. I don't know any passwords. Perhaps this will refresh your memory. The sound changed as Seo apparently shifted his phone. A child's voice came through, tearful and frightened. Hello? Is anyone there? I want Elena. Amara. Zainab's knees buckled and she sank onto the nearest chair. Don't hurt her, she whispered. Please, she's innocent. Innocence is relative, Seo replied after taking back the phone. You have 3 hours to remember those passwords, Ms. Afolayan. A car will arrive to collect you. Come alone, or the child suffers the consequences. The line went dead. Zainab sat frozen, mind racing. There were no passwords, nothing Malik had ever shared with her that could be what Seo wanted, but Amara was in danger, Jihoon was detained, and she was alone. No, not entirely alone. She pulled out the secure phone Jihoon had given her for emergencies, dialing the only number programmed into it. The head of Jihoon's security team answered immediately. Ms. Afolayan, what's happened? 20 minutes later, the estate was a flurry of activity. Security personnel armed and mobilizing, calls made to Jihoon's FBI contacts, surveillance footage from the safe house being analyzed frame by frame. We have a location, the security chief informed her. An abandoned warehouse in the industrial district. Satellite imagery shows minimal security. SEO is keeping this operation small, likely to avoid attention from the organization elders. I'm going, Zainab said firmly. Absolutely not. Mr. Kang's instructions were explicit. I don't care. Zainab's voice was steel. CO expects me. If I don't show, Amara dies immediately. At least if I'm there, I can buy time. It's too dangerous. I've been training for this, she insisted. For weeks. Everything Jihoon taught me. This is why. She met the security chief's eyes. I'm going, either with your help or without it. After a tense standoff, he relented. We'll wire you. Track your position. The extraction team will be 2 minutes out, waiting for your signal. He studied her face. You understand what could happen if this goes wrong? Zainab nodded, fear a distant buzz beneath her determination. I understand. 3 hours later, she stepped from the black sedan that had collected her, facing the dilapidated warehouse alone. The tracking device hidden in her earring transmitted her position to Jihoon's team. The small receiver concealed in her ear allowed them to communicate. The weapon strapped to her thigh beneath her dress was a last resort she prayed she wouldn't need. 2 men escorted her inside, through maze-like corridors to a central space where Seo waited, looking pleased with himself. Beside him stood a man Zainab had once thought she loved. Malik, thinner than she remembered, eyes darting nervously, and in a chair to the side, small and terrified but physically unharmed, sat Amara. Ms. Afolayan, Seo greeted her, all false courtesy. Thank you for joining us. Let the child go, Zainab said immediately. She has nothing to do with this. All in good time. First, the passwords. Zainab looked at Malik, who couldn't meet her eyes. There are no passwords. He's lying to you. That would be disappointing. SEO's pleasant expression hardened. Malik insisted you were the only one who knew how to access the final accounts, that you insisted on this protection. He's trying to save himself, Zainab said, contempt clear in her voice. That's what he does. Uses people, then throws them away when they're no longer useful. Malik finally looked up. Z, please, don't call me that. She turned back to Seo. There are no passwords. There never were. But I do have something better. Seo raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. Proof that Jihoon wasn't the only one talking to the feds. She took a calculated risk. Malik kept records. Insurance, he called it. Transactions, meetings, names, including yours, SEO, all backed up where only I could find it. The gamble worked. Uncertainty flickered across Seo's face. Beside him, Malik paled. She's lying, Malik insisted. Z, what are you doing? What you never had the courage to do, she replied evenly. Telling the truth. In her ear, the security chief's voice, extraction team in position. Signal when ready. Zainab took a step toward Amara. Let me take the child outside, then we can discuss terms. The child stays, Seo said sharply, until I have what I want. And what is that exactly? A new voice entered the conversation, deep, accented, achingly familiar. Ji-hoon stood in the doorway, flanked by his men, his expression carved from stone. Seo recovered quickly. Kang, you're supposed to be enjoying Singaporean hospitality. The Singaporean authorities were very understanding once the FBI clarified the situation. Ji-hoon's eyes found Zainab's, on something like relief flashing through them before his mask returned. Are you hurt? No, she answered, but Amara, we'll be leaving with you. Now. The authority in Ji-hoon's voice left no room for argument. He nodded to one of his men, who moved toward the child. Seo's hand went to his jacket, reaching for a weapon, but Zainab was faster. The gun was in her hand before conscious thought, aimed steadily at Seo's chest, just as Ji-hoon had taught her. Don't, she warned. Everything happened at once. Seo's men drew weapons. Ji-hoon's team moved with practiced precision. Malik threw himself to the floor, and little Amara broke free, running straight to Zainab, who caught her one-armed while keeping her gun trained on Seo. Enough! Ji-hoon's voice cut through the chaos. Seo, you're finished. The elders have seen everything. Your betrayal, your unauthorized operation, your threat to a child. Stand down. For a moment it seemed Seo might choose violence over surrender. Then, slowly, he lowered his hand. This isn't over, Kang. For you, it is. Ji-hoon nodded to his men, who moved to secure Seo and his guards. Zainab holstered her weapon and lifted Amara fully into her arms, the child clinging to her neck. It's okay, she murmured. You're safe now. We're going to take you to Elena. Ji-hoon approached, his eyes never leaving Zainab's face. You shouldn't have come here. You shouldn't have gotten detained, she countered. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Fair point. He looked at Amara, his expression softening. Hello, little one, remember me? From the video calls? Amara nodded shyly. You're Ji-hoon. You sent the teddy bear. That's right. He gestured toward the exit. Let's get you both out of here. As they moved toward the door, Malik called out, Z, wait, what happens to me? Zainab paused, looking back at the man who had caused so much pain. Justice happens to you, Malik, the kind that doesn't require bloodshed. Outside, federal agents were already arriving. Ji-hoon's contacts come to clean up the mess legally. Amara was reunited with a tearful Elena, their joy at being together again the only bright spot in the grim night. As dawn broke over Harbor City, Zainab found herself back at Ji-hoon's estate, sitting in his study while he made calls, handled arrangements, ensured loose ends were tied. When he finally finished, he came to sit beside her on the leather couch. You were reckless, he said quietly. I was effective, she corrected. Both can be true. He studied her face. You could have been killed. So could you. She met his gaze. But we weren't. Silence stretched between them, comfortable despite everything. It's over, Ji-hoon finally said. Malik will face federal charges. SEO has been removed from the organization. The money has been recovered. He paused. You're free to go as promised. The words hung in the air between them. And if I don't want to go? Zainab asked softly. Ji-hoon's eyes widened fractionally. What are you saying? I'm saying... She took a breath, gathering courage. These past months I've changed, grown stronger, found parts of myself I never knew existed. Her hand found his. And I've found something else I wasn't looking for. Zainab, let me finish. She squeezed his hand. I know who you are, what you've done, the world you come from. I'm not naive, but I also know who you're trying to become. I've seen it every day in how you protect those who need it, in your honor, in your determination to change your legacy. Ji-hoon's expression was unguarded for once, vulnerable in a way she'd rarely seen. The path I'm on is dangerous, complicated. So is life. She smiled slightly. I'm not saying I want to stay here, in this house, as your... whatever. I'm saying I want the choice, the freedom to decide what happens next, for myself. Slowly, cautiously, Ji-hoon raised his hand to her face, tracing the line of her cheek with gentle fingers. And what do you choose? I choose to see where this leads. She leaned into his touch. Not as your captive, not as your asset, but as myself, Zainab Afolayan, choosing you, if you'll have me. His answer came not in words, but in the gentle press of his lips against hers, a question, an offering, a beginning. 3 months later, Zainab stood on the balcony of her new apartment, watching the sunset over Harbor City. The place was hers, purchased legitimately with funds from her new consulting business, helping companies navigate West African markets. Ji-hoon had insisted she take nothing from him except his support as she built something of her own. Behind her, laughter drifted from the living room. Amara, visiting for the weekend, playing a board game with Elena and Ji-hoon. The child was flourishing in her new life, her nightmares fading, her smile returning. As for Ji-hoon, he was keeping his promise to change his legacy. The transition to legitimate business continued. His cooperation with federal authorities expanded. The old ways were giving way to new possibilities, one careful step at a time. And between them, Zainab and Ji-hoon, something beautiful and fragile was growing. Not ownership, not possession, but partnership. Choice, freely made each day. She felt him approach before she heard him, a familiar presence at her back. "Penny for your thoughts," he said softly, hands coming to rest lightly on her shoulders. Zainab leaned back against him, content, just thinking about how differently things could have turned out. If you hadn't come to the club that night, if I hadn't gone with you, if you hadn't been brave enough to face Seo. His arms encircled her waist. If you hadn't been stubborn enough to stay? She turned in his embrace to face him. We're quite the unlikely story, aren't we? The best ones always are. Ji-hoon smiled, that rare, genuine smile that still made her heart skip. Ready to go back in? Amara is convinced she's going to beat me at Monopoly this time. In a minute, Zainab reached up to trace the line of his jaw. I'm just enjoying the view. As the last light of day painted Harbor City in gold and crimson, Zainab thought about choices, those forced upon us and those we make freely, about walking into danger with eyes open, about finding strength in unlikely places, and about a club closing late at night, a dangerous man's quiet question, and the unexpected journey of saying yes to one last drink. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this story of danger, transformation, and unexpected love, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more captivating stories. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments below. What was your favorite part? Would you have made the same choices as Zainab? Your support means everything to us, and we can't wait to bring you more stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat.